padded cell in this facility?
Okay, I got here in November of 21, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
November 21 I got here. And I believe it was probably February
Okay.
of 22. It was, when I got here, we would house all of our mental health concerns in Unit 2. That's where the
Okay.
pad cell is right now.
Okay.
But like you'll see, all the cells here are just like metal encased.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, there was too much of a chance of somebody getting hurt, banging their heads off the wall or whatever. I mean, this was strictly as a safety issue for those that are here that are suffering.
How often is that happening, would you say?
It goes in spurts. We may get none for a couple months.
Okay.
And then it just seems like it's one and two. And fortunately, unfortunately, whichever institution you're from, a lot of them seem to be females.
Okay.
We don't house females here.
So can you give me some examples of what you've seen here?
What we see here is, well, what I've seen is a lot of them are they're just sitting there, shaking back and forth,
Okay.
you know, or bouncing back and forth.
Do you have an idea when these people come in? Like, do you know what to expect? Or George said people kind of just show up and then stuff happens and they're like, you know, they have to kind of evaluate it for themselves with their counselors.
Yeah, like we don't have the counselors here, but what happens is, like, I'll use BP2 as an example, even though BP2 shut down now. What used to happen was they were not allowed, I don't know if it was some kind of, I don't know if it was a Geisinger, I don't know if it was a state, but they were not allowed to just come from like BP2 and then come right to jail. Their treatment had to be over in BP2.
Okay.
So what would happen is their treatment would be over and then boom, they're in the magistrate's office for assaulting somebody at BP2 and then they'd end up here. Now, like I said, our local magistrate used to sit in this chair here.
Right.
So he understands, so he unless it's something serious, and I couldn't tell you the last time he really put somebody from BP2 or from Danville State here. It's usually like an on-call magistrate that's just not familiar with the procedures.
So you work with like some young wardens here, or young COs here.
Oh yes.
So what is it like for them to kind of work with some of these people?
When they first come in, I get a lot of phone calls. If they come in after hours, I get the phone calls, or my deputy will get the phone calls.
Okay.
And then, you know, they'll come here, they'll put them, they go through a scoring system as far as a self-hurt. It's a suicide is what it is.
Okay.
And if they score above a certain number, we'll notify CMSU, they'll get put in a suicide smock, and then they'll get put in a padded cell.
Okay.
If they're coming from like Danville State or someplace like that, no matter how they score on their suicide assessment, they'll still go into the padded cell until CMSU can come in and interview them, and because they're the mental health professionals, not us. Some of my staff here are 20 years old that never seen anything like this. So that's why we lean on CMSU, but they're not here full time. I mean, if we have an issue, we call them and they get here. And
So what are your, I mean, it seems like you guys have almost some ethical concerns about, you know, how this is handled. It is, you know, the procedure right now, but it feels like you guys have some ethical concerns about it. So can you speak to that?
I don't know. I think ethics and morals come in, you know, hand in hand. I wouldn't want one of my family members that has a mental health issue in a prison, because that's no place for him. I have that. He's not in a prison, he's in a group home. But like I said during that roundtable, if something would happen and he would end up in it would, I couldn't even tell you, it'd be horrible. So I think we owe it to the people, to the residents of Danville State. Now, if you're talking about somebody else that's competent and understands what they're doing, completely different story, completely. But if you're talking to somebody that was at Danville State Hospital and they were put there with a psychiatrist and a judge that said, yeah, they need to be in the state hospital, I believe that's how it's done anyway. That they committed to the state hospital, then they're going to go from state hospital where they have all of their medications, all of their counseling, all their treatments, and put them in a county prison with nothing. It's morally not right, and I don't understand why we are doing it.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the solution is? I know it's a tough question for everybody when I get to it.
When we were at a round table and Senator Argyle said about let's figure a way out, but let's make it cost effective. Mm-hmm. What price do you put on that? We have to find the money for treatment. Mm-hmm. I think what we need to do is, a couple of years ago, I don't know, 5, 10, Trevor would probably know the dates better, but we closed down all these state forensic hospitals. I think we might need to look at reopening some of these hospitals, because if we want to send somebody to Torrance, mm-hmm. it takes weeks or some months for them to get a bed there. Well, okay, so that tells me that there's a bed issue. There's no beds. But we have like Whitehaven and places like that. Why can't the state reopen them mm-hmm. as a forensic hospital? Mm-hmm. Why can't they reopen, do something with Sunbury Hospital as a forensic hospital? Mm-hmm. We need the forensic mental health places, because there's people out there that as unfortunately should not be walking around, or they should not be in prison. They need to be in a forensic hospital where they can receive their treatment. But if they're acting out, the staff there should have the opportunity to defend themselves, not abuse, but defend themselves, treat the people with dignity, and if they need some kind of restraint, whether it's chemical or mechanical, they need to be able to do that. They can do that at a forensic hospital.
Mm-hmm. And those people are trained to,
right.
do that kind of thing. Your people, your 20-year-olds, like, they're not trained for that.
Right? They are trained. My guys are correctional officers.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not trained for anything like that. They get training in pepper spray. They get training in a pepper ball gun. Danville State. We'll use Danville State Hospital as an example. Mm-hmm. And you know where I'm going with this. They're up in Danville State. Those staff members up there cannot use any kind of restraints on them, right? Mm-hmm. So and they go to the magistrate. They come here. And all of a sudden, they're going from up there where they're getting no restraint to here. We'll pepper spray them. We'll put them in handcuffs. We treat them like inmates and not people from a mental health facility. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we have to protect our staff here like they should be protecting their staff up there.
Mm-hmm. We're letting a state problem become our problem here at Montour County. Mm-hmm. Now, thankfully, Senator Culver, we've had her ear, and she has been very helpful in moving this forward into the public sphere. One of the things that Sam and I talked about was when the governor's mansion burned, the state police went and arrested the guy, and he went to a state prison. He never once touched a county facility. So why can't the same thing happen here? Even though we don't want to see anybody go from a hospital setting into incarceration, at least the state prisons have means for mental health that the counties don't have. Mm-hmm. So, my thought process is if somebody is, their crimes are that egregious that they can no longer stay in a state hospital, move them to a state correctional facility, bypass the local or the county jails altogether until such time they can get into a place like Torrance, which is a forensic unit. Mm-hmm. Now, do we want to keep the Danville State Hospital here? Do we want to keep it active? Do we want the jobs? Sure. But let's see how we do that in a better way. There's all kinds of empty buildings at the Danville State Hospital. Mm-hmm. So perhaps a mini forensic unit here makes sense, where they could just transfer people over to a different section of the hospital. If you're a Geisinger and you're having trouble breathing, they have a doctor that deals with your breathing, and then if all of a sudden you're having problems with your heart, you go to a different doctor. So I think that would make sense at the Danville State Hospital. If they're not causing problems, if they just have their mental health or behavioral issues, keep them here. If something else happens, then move them over to a different set of rules, a different doctor, so on and so forth.